Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Allison LaFolita. I'm the Executive Director for the Nonprofit Resource Hub. We're really happy to have you here, and we're looking forward to learning some new things from Darren Port. Just to give you a quick background on the Nonprofit Resource Hub, if you are not familiar with us, we're a trade association whose mission is to serve the nonprofit community, provide resources, educate, and connect its members with our nonprofit partners. At the same time, NRH serves the nonprofit sector as a bridge connecting nonprofit organizations to each other and to helpful resources. And that's part of what we're doing here today during our webinar. We do quite a few things for our nonprofits, such as this webinar today. We want to be able to make sure that the people who are participating and our nonprofit partners with our organization are always in the know, especially with how things are going right now in the world. And we want to keep you up to date. We know more often than not, you are very overwhelmed with not only trying to achieve your mission, but with your daily grind. So we want to make sure that we are able to keep you in the loop of what's happening and what you need to know. If you are not a nonprofit partner as of yet with NRH, we encourage you to please join. There is no cost to the nonprofit community to become a nonprofit partner. All you need to do is go to nonprofitresourcehub.org and join as a nonprofit partner. I'd like to thank all of the members of the NRH who really help not only produce these amazing webinars, but contribute daily to the operations of our organization and supporting the nonprofit community. As you'll see, they're listed on our slide. And without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce today's speaker, Darren Port, founder and CEO of Powered by Professionals. Darren?
All right, well, thank you everyone at the Nonprofit Resource Hub for giving us this platform to be able to share some information for all of you. A little bit about me and my background, so you know who you're listening to. First, we're going to be talking about fundraising events, producing effective fundraising events. We're going to touch on live, hybrid, and virtual, and we're going to be, how we're all adapting on the fly. As Allison mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of Powered by Professionals, which is a fundraising and event management firm that was started about 20 years ago that works exclusively with nonprofit organizations. So a little bit about our company. Actually, my story, I'm going to give you very briefly. Personally, I was affected by a loss of a parent at the age of 15 years old. And that kind of got me on this track. As many of you wanted to maybe make a difference or change something that had affected you either at a younger age or just that you didn't like, and you got involved in the nonprofit space. Well, for me, I went through a traumatic experience at a young age, got very involved with charity after college, volunteering my time, learning what it was like to serve as a committee member, a board member, a volunteer for different organizations, and involved with Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, the Ovarian Cancer Research Foundation, as well as the University of Maryland. And during the 90s, I volunteered a ton of my time. I was also a major event planner and promoter in New York City, as well as had a day job. I was in the internet space and took a company public in the late 90s. So I got to live that internet ride for about 7 years, very early on. Woke up in 01 with the realization that I loved doing the nonprofit work I was doing. And a lot of people thought I did that already for a living because I did so much of it. So I decided to write a business plan in August of 01. I was totally burned out from the internet space. Our company was still public. We were trying to sell it. And I presented my business plan to a couple of friends. One friend fortunately got married September 8th, and he was on his honeymoon because his wife worked at Cantor Fitzgerald. And when the events of September 11th occurred, he was luckily away. But that was obviously a traumatic day for all of us 20 years ago. And he called me when he got back and said, that business plan you showed me, can you help me start a charity for kids who lost a parent? So we helped start a charity called A Little Hope. And that was the beginning of Powered by Professionals officially. And we've since launched 14 organizations from scratch. We've helped raise over $150 million for different nonprofits. And we've worked with close to a little over 100 nonprofits in different capacities. And what we do with these nonprofits is fundraising, And fundraising includes strategic fundraising, event fundraising, and board development. That's all about volunteer engagement. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and how do you engage your volunteers and get them to play an effective role in your events and your organization. Second piece is for us is event management, and that's everything from a venue to a platform, like a technology platform, and then all the way through script writing. So all the pieces that go into planning an event. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like and how fundraising affects those things and how those things affect fundraising. And then the last piece is technology. What technology can you leverage so your organization can be more effective, can be more streamlined, be more seamless? So that's a little bit about us. Let's get right into it. Okay. So the first thing I always say when I'm talking with a nonprofit is we have to determine what the purpose, if you're doing an event, what the purpose of that event is. Are you trying to raise money for the organization? Are you, like, I literally just got off the phone this morning with someone and I was like, what are you trying to raise? She's like, it's not about the money for us. It's about having an event that people will know more about us, so we can educate the community about what we're doing and the impact we're having. So awareness can be a big piece of it. Attracting new donors, letting people get involved, maybe the event's an opportunity to get them out and to learn more about your organization. Are you trying to cultivate relationships with existing donors? Obviously, with the pandemic, it's been extremely challenging to kind of build on those relationships with board members, committee members, donors who you would like to convert into a bigger role. Honoring individuals that have done a lot for your organization, recognizing individuals that have been instrumental in helping the organization fulfill its mission, and activating board members and other key volunteers. These are all different reasons why people would be doing a fundraising event. So let's talk about the pros of a live event. I know a lot of us missed this. Some of us have started to do some live events. For our company, we've had almost all of our events this fall are going virtual now, slightly unfortunately, because we were all excited to be back in person. We have done a couple of live events that have outdoor components. But what do we love about a live event? And it's a chance to talk to the donors, socialize with friends, enjoy food and drinks, watching live entertainment, building relationships with some of these people, getting to know that person's daughter's on the soccer team and you want to ask. So when you call the next time, you can ask how the season went, or, just you heard they just had a baby and you want to comment on that, or you can find out something else about their summer home, just to get to know them at a different level. So you're not just talking work. You can talk about other things. Live appeals are not the same, at these virtual events. We've worked on making them better, but it's definitely great to have an in-person feel for that component of an event. So those are some of the things that we definitely miss when we're not live. Some of the pros for a virtual event is that it does allow us to increase our audience. Now, sometimes the audience is not larger at these virtual events, but the opportunity is there. And I think it's kind of on us as nonprofits to figure out how to include more people in our events, how to make it accessible, how to make it that they feel compelled to be involved, or that it's easy for them to come by and check in. You want to make sure that there's a lower barrier to entry for these virtual events. I think there's a conceived mindset that the value is maybe a little less, so they don't have to pay as much. So you have to keep that in mind when pricing out your events. And then, is there a way to include celebrities and others to kind of make it a little more exciting? Reusable content. I think this is probably one of the most important pieces of all of this, is the fact that you can take content from these events and then repurpose it after the event through social media, through email. And when we do a normal event, we never get this much video content. We don't ask people to do as much as we're asking people to do to participate in these virtual events. So I encourage you to leverage this as an opportunity. People are willing to do it. It's not as hard as it looks to record their information, and you can, not necessarily easily, but you can edit that information and then use it in different ways. It's a great way to get more knowledge out about your organization and have it come from other people who are donors and volunteers for your mission. Before we get too far into this, I want to let you know we're also going to show a couple of videos today during the presentation. They're short, they're a minute long, and we're just going to show some highlights from events that we've done and how we've incorporated some of the components that I'll be speaking about. So pros of a hybrid event. So here's the opportunity to get the best of both worlds in theory, right? So we haven't had that many hybrid events because we had planned to do a number of hybrid events this fall, but because of the Delta variant, it is unfortunately affecting some of those plans. But we are still working on a number, and we've planned out a whole bunch. And one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to get the opportunity for people that want to attend, the people that don't, who can't attend, to be able to join virtually. So you're going to reach more people, right? That's number one. Number two, you're going to have some flexibility going into the event. Should your event have to go virtual, and you're now ready for it because you've been planning for a virtual component of your event. This is important to do probably moving forward in this world that we are now living in, especially next spring. If you're planning something, is that you want to probably plan hybrid so that you have the flexibility to go fully live or fully virtual if needed. The increased engagement. So one of the things we want to do on these hybrid events is we want to figure out how to interact with people throughout the event. So there's components. There are ways to even have people who are at the live event interact with the people who are virtual. And then there are ways to make the people who are virtual feel part of the live event. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but the idea of including that live appeal and having the names of the people that are donating virtually show up on the screens, having the people see what's happening at the event, not everything happening, but maybe a segment that's happening, and making sure that virtual component is not the whole 3 hours or 4 hours, but it's a shorter time frame that people might actually stick around for. So those are some things to think about. Things to consider. So the current state of the COVID-19 pandemic is clearly on us, and we're trying to figure out how to navigate it still. We were all hoping it'd be over. But so what I want to talk about a little bit about the current recommendations from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. Both the CDC advises that both vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals should wear masks in public indoor settings in areas of substantial or high transmission. Now, I think and a couple of other points here from the CDC, that it's still discouraging large events, gatherings. Now, we've seen that there's clearly plenty of large gatherings going on. Most of those are outside. You've seen the football games, you've seen concerts. Most of these are occurring outside, or they're demanding or requiring a vaccination. Still, people are not necessarily comfortable going, even if everyone's vaccinated. It's inside, and it's not in an enormous venue. There's a concern for some, not with all. But so you have to take that into account when planning your event, because even if you think it's fine, if 80% of the people aren't going to show up, that's going to be a problem. So you have to really understand what's out there. It really, if you're the organization, you're the planner who's planning the event, you need to understand what are the local and state rules and laws tied to the the guidance that they're giving you. It's very important to understand that for your liability, as well as the best interest of your organization and the attendees. And if you're a health organization, you may want to think even more conservatively, as opposed to an organization that may be just a different type of organization or wouldn't be as sensitive to. Like we had a brain cancer organization that the doctor we were honoring said, I just don't know if I'd strongly recommend having it in person unless you can have an outdoor component. So one thing people are doing is looking for venues that have that outdoor. We had an event for a brain cancer organization in Connecticut that had an outdoor area as well as an indoor area, and there were doors open the whole time. So it was like basically a free-flowing format, which enabled people to be a lot more comfortable with the setting. So something to strongly consider. Here are the rules that are still in place from the May 19th they stated this. They haven't really updated this as far as we could see. We are going to put some links, I think, into the chat so you can take a look yourselves and read some more about the different the COVID-19 protocols that are out there. You know, some people are most people are requiring a vaccination to attend, because New York City is requiring vaccination inside venues. You know, and then it's up to you if you're going to ask people to wear a mask. And then if you're going to even let people in who are not vaccinated, most people are not even allowed in. And then that becomes an issue if you have a big donor. So I ran into this with another event that we're doing where one of our big donors and a guy that I was asking to be one of the chairs of the event is not vaccinated. So knowing that the venue is going to demand vaccination and he told me he was not going to get vaccinated, you know, I knew that that was potentially a big problem for our fundraising, and I had to really think that through. So not only the health concern, but now the fundraising concern comes into play. And then the next thing to strongly consider here, and then let me just see where else says present proof of vaccination status for a recent negative test. Yeah, so there are a lot of people who are asking those of you who are vaccinated, even if you're vaccinated, to do an additional test, you know, right before the event. Some are having rapid tests at the door. There's all kinds of things going on. So it's really what your organization feels comfortable with. Most of the ones we're working with are moving virtual, just because it may just make more sense to be safe. You know, that's really what it comes down to. So things to consider with the event venue and the audience. Do you have an existing contract with your venue? So here's really the most important part, is there's a cost involved here, right? We all know that the cost to do these events, and actually I can go to that. Well, I'll talk about budgets in a minute, but the cost to do these events is so extraordinary when you're in person that when you're locked into these venues, you have to be careful what the contract says. What are the outs? Are people going to show? Are you locked into X hundreds of people that you're guaranteed to pay for? And what's the expense risk? So so that is what our clients and a lot of nonprofits are thinking about right now. You know, what's your existing contract look like? Are they allowing you to push the date back? Have you had that conversation? Will they hold a deposit for next year? What are the donors comfortable with? You know, talk to your board. I would start with your board and get their feedback. Are you planning on serving food and drink? Can you move the event outdoors? Does the venue have an outdoor component? Do they have a sister or brother organization, you know, venue that they can move you to that has that outdoor component, which gives gets people more comfortable. Even if some people are comfortable, the other people have a place to stay, to be a part of the event, even if they can't be inside. And who's your audience? Like we talked about this a little bit already. Like, are they immune compromised? You know, what would your community reaction be to an in-person event during COVID? You really have to think these through. There's a lot of money at risk. And what we've seen is that some organizations have walked away from their deposit because the venues are not giving back deposits for the most part. There are a few that are. And you got to understand where they're coming from. They can't just keep giving back people's money. So, because there are no rules that you can't have the event. It's more just the fact that if nobody shows, I'm more concerned if 30% of the people come to the venue, then what do we have? And what expense are we, you know, taking on for that nonprofit? So those are the things to weigh carefully. Here's an idea what the costs are, you know, what your costs are with your event, but these venues and catering can be just astronomical, the cost of those events. The audio visual can really range depending on what you're trying to do and the venue you're at. Some of these venues start at a really high price just because of the sophistication of the venue. And if you're trying to have a hybrid component, virtual component, there's additional costs tied into that, depending on what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to live stream from the event to then there's going to be additional costs. If you're not trying to do that and you're going to pre-record some things separately, that could bring the cost down. So you really got to weigh what budget do you want to work within, and then create an event that either fits that, or create what type of event do you want to create, and then decide, you know, how flexible that budget can be to meet all those needs. You will have a tech platform that you'll need to include. With auction platforms, sometimes those can be the same. We'll talk about platforms in a little bit. engagement activities. If you're going to buy food and send it to people, which I'm not that big a fan of, additional video production, that can be a lot of money, or that can be less, depending on how many private videos you're creating, how many you're going to leverage some of these tools that are available. We use a podcast tool that enables us to kind of record better than Zoom and get high quality and help someone through their reading of their speech. But you can also have a professional videographer record a number of people in one day. You can do more complicated things, as you're aware. So what we do if COVID regulations come out the week before your event, are you prepared to pivot completely if there's a shutdown again? And what does that look like? That's why having that hybrid component built out protects you from that occurring. I don't see that happening. I do see venues staying open almost no matter what right now. I think everyone's kind of done with it. But I do think that still there's a major cost piece that people are trying to avoid in taking on. And that's why virtual events are becoming big again this fall. Are your people traveling? What's the event, indoor, outdoor? We kind of covered a lot of this. Length of the event. Number and crowding of the people at the event. I mean, I can't believe we're concerned about having 250 people and there's 100,000 people at a football game and people are screaming the entire time. But it's outside, and that just, I don't know. Is this the first, are people going to risk their job to come to your charity event? They're concerned if they get sick and they can't go to work for a few weeks or can't get paid. So these are things to keep in mind. So where are you and now in your event planning process with live hybrid? What is your plan if you're not able to hold an in-person event? Make sure you have that backup plan in place, and making sure you set a deadline. You can't kind of be switching back and forth. You got to make a decision. Your donors, your volunteers want to know, what are we doing? So be decisive, make a decision, and get buy-in from them. If they're not buying in, you're not going to be able to get very far. So that's something I would strongly recommend. Yeah, okay. Let's talk a little bit about fundraising at these events. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Incorporating text to give campaigns and, in a live appeal, a live ask, graphic overlays. I have a couple of images here on the screen. I'm going to show you how we've done it at different events. This can be a great way to touch all participants, both in the room and those virtually. So make it easy for people to give. There's so much technology out there now that there are just easy ways to do it. People want to be on their phones, let them be on their phones. Let them leverage their phone to send a donation. Be sure you let donors know the impact of their gifts. So if their gift of $1,000 gets you this, let people know that. Make sure you can include celebrities to make those announcements. You can include your MC. You could have a top donor or a board member. People like to be involved. And the more you involve people in your event, the more they're going to be connected to your organization. Is there a thermometer that kind of keeps track of the donations? So there's another thing. So here's a video that we put together just to show you some examples from a couple of events we've done. Take a listen.
Now, when our in-person programs are back up and running, a $5,000 donation will underwrite a family literacy workshop series, which features 8 weeks of weekly group reading and an art project, with every participant getting a healthy dinner and a take-home book each week.
If you haven't registered yet, then please text 2021 ILA to 41444, or of course, hit the giving tab on Cadence.
Your contribution could help spark a lifelong love of reading for a New York City student. Let us check in to see how we are doing so far.
Thank you to Lisa and Sean Fitzgerald for your generous $1,000 donation. Wow! Thank you Gala co-chair Julie Allen for your $10,000 gift.
Julie and Beth Sterling, thank you so much for your $5,000 gift on behalf of those teachers. And I see another $5,000 gift from Sam and Gail Gradis. So strong.
So I just saw that we try to show you different examples of how you can talk about the text to pledge, you can communicate it, you can show it on the screen, how the last person was showing how how you can tell updates as the event's going on. So if you have a live component, even if it's one person who's live, that makes the whole event feel a little more interactive and engaged. Making sure you have a hardline connection, making sure everyone has practiced multiple times, everyone understands what's going on, communicate through text with the person who's speaking so that it's a clear communication. We've had events where they're literally reading off their phone the excitement of what all the donations that are coming in. So a lot of different ways to do it is my point. Here's an example of some of the sponsorship levels. One thing you'll find with sponsorships, if you go virtual, is that there are a lot of ways to include videos and ways to highlight sponsors through technology. And that's, I think, what you want to, you can do something like I'm doing behind me with my logo. You can have the logos of the top donor, top sponsors. If they're presenting sponsors, you can include some sort of gift that gets sent to people's homes, and it could be highlighting some of the sponsors from the event. So there's a number of ways to go about it, and this just gives you some examples. So some of the other things that we've done at the events is we've done an auction or a raffle. I know a lot of you have used auctions before, and with a virtual event, people are leveraging auctions still, maybe not as much as a live event, but we were also already using technology for auctions when we were having live events. So that just holds true again with a virtual event. People can bid in advance. People can bid after sometimes, depending on when you close the auction. You can do reminders throughout the event to make sure they bid. Some platforms have an ability so you can see the auction items on the side while they're watching the stream of the event. Some of the Give Smart and One Cause or two that we've worked with often, and they really have a nice setup. And then there's also other things like raffles or sweepstakes that you can do, and it's kind of interactive and fun. Which, it's a chance to involve the people who are actually participating in the event, who've logged in and are watching the event. Just make sure you understand the rules and regulations of your state. It's important that you understand that, because there are some rules with raffles that treat them like a lottery. So you have to just make sure you're not, doing anything illegal. But it's a fun way. I'm going to show you an example here of a raffle we did at another event.
We're going to spin the raffle for the first one of the evening. It's going to be for a $100 Amazon gift card. So let's spin that wheel and let's see who the winner is tonight.
All right, we're following along. You should see that on your screen right there. Everyone's name, everyone who joined us tonight, your name is right there on that wheel. Here we go. Big winner going to be, all right, come on, here it comes.
Joel Rakowski. Joel, congratulations. You have a $100 gift card. I'll make sure that I accept it for you.
Yeah, we'll send it home with me.
But I promise it was not rigged.
So, okay. So that that's like you can see, it was really fun. They were actually live. That was a live segment. It was actually in our offices. And one really creative thing we did with that event is they were also pre-recorded, not that component, but they were pre-recorded earlier in the program with the same exact backdrop, with the same exact lighting, and with the same exact clothes on. So it really made the whole event feel like it was live, because those other components that we had pre-recorded with a professional videographer, those were where they were your MCs throughout the night. And then they have this live component where they literally were live. But the other components, now you're like, maybe the whole thing was live. So it was a creative way to incorporate live and make the whole event feel live. And I love how that raffle works, and the sweepstakes worked, and it got to include everyone. They did like 3 different items. Just showed you one, but it was fun to do that at an event. What platform do you use? This is a big thing for virtual and hybrid events. And for if you're, for the hybrid event where you have a live component, which one's going to fit with that kind of event? So your event platform will help you engage with both the live and online audiences. There are numerous platform options available, and there are numerous costs to go along with that. These are some of the ones we've used the most. We've done a number of events on Cadence, a little more sophisticated than some of the others, has the ability to do more. You don't have to use all the bells and whistles, but they have the ability to have breakout rooms and as well as chat and other polls and other things. So it's a really nice platform. It fits nicely with Zoom or other Zoom components. So people are comfortable inside the platform, and they've developed nicely over the last year. A few others I'll just highlight is One Cause and Give Smart I mentioned. They're nice because you got the auction component, registration, donations, kind of all built in, and kind of a one-stop shop. We're really big on Vimeo and streaming through Vimeo. We have a very high-end tool for Vimeo that we purchased that enables us to do really all of our streaming goes through Vimeo to make sure the event is crisp and that people can feel connected. Understanding what the cross-platform capabilities are, how much can you customize it to your look and feel? What type of interactive features do you need? So don't buy one of these big platforms if you don't need anything. If you want to do a pre-recorded event that has no interaction, then you don't need it. So you can just do it through Vimeo even possibly. So it's just understanding what you need. How can you incorporate the sponsorship branding? What does it look like? Make sure you see some demos. Obviously practice and then move things around to see what looks best on your event. Are you going live? Is it pre-recorded? And what's the technical support available? So those are important things. Some of them don't have registration capabilities, so you need to either have your own registration or come up with a different registration process. So a couple other things. What type of apps tie into the platforms if you are doing a virtual fundraising event? Making sure that there are other ways to communicate effectively with your audience. Join the event from a computer and a phone concurrently. A lot of people like to do that. They'll have it streaming, they'll be on their phone. Provides an easy way for them to follow along with the schedule, receive event notifications, which is great. The more you can get people to log into their phone, now we have an ability to communicate with them through their phone. And that's something you're going to see more and more of over the next year or two, as we're already seeing it, but at a whole nother level. Cadence has a whole built out app on your phone. It's actually almost better than the computer. So it's really nice, makes it easy to watch and easy to participate. In auction platforms, we spoke about some of these, but they offer text to give capabilities during the live appeal, which is very important. These platforms are also very mobile friendly. Again, you got to get a platform that's going to be mobile friendly this day and age. So make sure that you're doing your homework on that. Text messages can be sent to the guests during the event, letting them know, hey, listen, this is closing, or hey, by the way, we're starting the next part of the program, or hey, don't forget to donate before our deadline. So there's a lot of different ways, and there are very inexpensive options out there as well that you can tie in and use with some of these other streaming platforms. So do your homework or work with a company that can help you navigate through this. Producing a successful fundraising event. Program, video, and streaming. So what I've seen, we've done a lot of different ones. We've done all pre-recorded events. We've done a lot of live components. People are doing watch parties now. So people who are going to do a live event are now how to move to virtual. Like, well, how do I have some live components? So get watch parties going. Get board members to agree. Pick X amount of board members who are going to agree to host a watch party, and incorporate that into your event. There are many ways to do that. You can have them record a video literally a half hour before the event starts and send it to your production team, where that can be uploaded and look live during the event. You can go to them live. Just don't overcomplicate it. We've seen people almost go in the opposite direction than they were a year ago. We've done 35 to 40 different virtual events for nonprofits, and we've seen people try to do more the first few months than they're doing now. It's very interesting to say, don't overcomplicate things. But there are ways to make it interactive and fun, and I think that's important. Record any videos from honorees and other event participants. Even if you want to have a live component, have a pre-recorded component as a backup. Just a way to protect yourself. God forbid there's a problem. Make sure the team you're working with has the ability to stream and back up their stream. You run, have less technical problems. How are you switching? What kind of switching technology are you using if you're going live and pre-recorded? What are the venue's AV capabilities if you're going to try to stream the event while you're having the live component? Understand that that might not be the best thing. Someone said to me, like, what are we going to do? We're going to stream the event, but the event's so long, so people aren't going to stay on that long. And what about the break we take during the program? How are we going to do that? So you got to think through all of these things and determine what is the most important part of the program for us to stream to our virtual audience, and what are people going to feel connected to and be a part of. And if they're going to give, make sure they're a part of the giving part. Maybe you pre-record at the beginning and you just have them participate in the live appeal. So, figure out what makes the most sense for you. How many cameras do you need? It gets very expensive very quickly. Video companies are charging astronomical amounts of money. So make sure you really talk it through. There are plenty of things you can do and not spend that money. So just depending on the budget you're working within and what you're trying to raise. So keep that all in mind. It's an example of a simple studio we set up in one of our offices. Real easy. You do need the right computer to stream the event. The high-end, almost like a gaming type of computer that you need to use to avoid different issues. Here's another example of some entertainment that you could spice up your event with.
Let's see what is in tonight's forecast, shall we?
Hi, my name is Arturo O'Farrell. I'm the founder of the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra and the Afro-Latin Jazz Alliance.
We're here at 54 Below. Thank you so much for having us down here. These are our good old friends. This is home for us. And let's have a great night. Well, Illinois Central, there's Southern Central Freight. And I ain't gonna put your mama yet, but you know they're running later.
I'm giving you a longing look every day, every day, every day, every day I've got the book.
Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better.
Well, I'm lying in bed just like Brian Wilson did. Whoa.
You see there, those are really a lot of very different options, but those are all entertainment that occurred at our events in the fall. First one being so creative and having the different images on the screen and the different musicians playing at the same time. I thought that was very cool, and how they used the letters because it was a reading organization to kind of switch screens. Another one was actually at 54 Below, like he mentioned. The organization wanted to have live. They've performed at their event many years, so they wanted to have them as part of their virtual event. So they did talk a little bit about the organization, not in the part we used, but so you feel very connected. It looked like it was happening live. It was pre-recorded. We had them say some things that we knew were in the program. And then you just saw some others, how they incorporated, entertainers, if it's simply, a celebrity doing it, or actresses from the theater district. So it was just a lot of different ways to do it than Stephen Page from Bare Naked Ladies. So, there's different ways to do it, and it was a lot of fun and incorporating it. You don't have to need a lot. You need one song, maybe 2 songs, and you can get it done. One of our clients used Peter Frampton as the draw for their event, and then had him perform 2 or 3 songs, one in the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end. And it kept people engaged because they didn't know how many songs he was going to play, and so on. So there are ways to do that, but you have to obviously manage a budget, whatever you're on. So to wrap up, things to take under consideration. Make sure the branding is beyond your standard event signage when you're doing a virtual hybrid event. On PDF forms that we send out, make sure it's clear for ways for people to participate. Make sure you offer other components. Maybe if we used to, recipes and different things that people can make at home to make the event a little more enticing. Encourage the watch parties like we spoke about. Enhance a digital journal. Visuals behind the speakers like I have tonight. Interactive fundraising opportunities are, another thing. Bottlenecks and challenges. And my biggest thing is just don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to do too much unless you're sure the people you're working with can help you execute on that, and take their advice if they're professionals and they've done it before. They're going to tell you what's worked and what hasn't because they've been through it. So leverage that. Make sure you have technical support in place. There are older people, as we know, big donors that have supported us. So keep that in mind as well. Let's see here, making sure you have a plan and a team in place to assist guests with technical support, keeping guests engaged as they run a show, shipping items to guests in advance. I can go either way on this depending on what you're actually sending. I'm a big fan if you're sending something that ties to your mission, or if you get a sponsor that wants to pay for them. Obtaining pre-recorded video, needed material from featured participants for your program. Leverage celebrities, ask people. People will do it. It's 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute out of their day. Just as long as you're organized and give it to them in an easy to consume format, they'll participate and help you. So let's jump to some questions. When do you know when to pull the plug on your planned event and change it to a virtual event? Okay, what I would say is that you have to know when the expense is going to be at, when you lose control of that expense. So if the venue says, well, you have to pay another installment or they won't give you money back after this date, that has to be weighed. I think that's the most important piece. And then figuring out, taking a strong board, what their participation levels would be. And that's when you need to make the decision. We like to say 6 to 8 weeks out is pretty much late. Is last, but you can go to 4 weeks, but you're really pushing it. It depends how organized your event is. If you plan properly, then 6 to 8 weeks should be fine. If you're a late planner, you might be able to wait a little bit longer. What's a timeline we should keep in mind to plan a virtual event? It's a similar timeline, but it is a little shorter. So maybe it's 8 to 12 weeks. But it depends how quickly you can pull things together. If you don't have honorees and you don't have the lists organized, those things still have to go out. You need to give people time to give because you want to fundraise. And if you're not sure if you're going virtual, you're still planning live. Fundraise as much as you can while it's still being planned live. You can always figure out how to either offer the people who paid a little more something else. Most people will just give you the money. They're doing it to support your organization, not because they're looking forward to the steak dinner you're offering them. Do you find virtual events to be more costly for the nonprofit hosting it versus having a live event? No, it's definitely less expensive. And if you're paying more for a virtual event, then you're paying too much for a virtual event. So happy to talk to anybody, free to have a conversation, answer your questions. If you are trying to figure out your budget, again, there are a lot of different ways to go here. So the cost can range dramatically depending on what you want to do. So you figure out what your budget is. And I always say work backwards. Tell me what you want your budget to be or a range, and then we'll give you what the options are you can do within that range. So yes, it should definitely be less than a live event. Do you think virtual events bring in more fundraising dollars than live events? So then I would say it's probably not the case. I would say it's probably going to bring in less money, but if your expenses are less, maybe you're netting around the same. So we're playing in that department. We have had virtual events raise more. So it just do not stop doing what you normally do from the fundraising side. You have to have volunteers, you have to have honorees, you have to have chairs, you have to get people in roles, you have to follow up with people, you have to encourage people to still reach out, got to get mailing lists or email lists. You have to create materials that can be pushed out to people. You got to help people with letters. These are all things you still have to do. If you stop doing any of those things, your fundraising will go down naturally. And don't let people say, well, I can't ask anyone, it's such a hard time. We're kind of done with that already. Majority of people, not all people, but 80% of people, let's say, are doing well. So, and the markets have been up. So people are okay. Ask. Don't let them use that excuse not to ask. And what's the best way to secure a celebrity? Best way to secure a celebrity, see if anybody knows a celebrity. That'd be the first thing. I would go to my board and say, does anyone have access to a celebrity? Does anyone have access to a company that has access to a celebrity? So some companies have paid celebrities that do work for them, and they may be open to letting the celebrity do a very quick soundbite for you because you have a relationship with that corporation. So keep that in mind. Obviously, if the board member has a relationship with a celebrity through somebody, that's a great way to go. Recently, I approached a sports organization that one of the players had said they were helping out with 9/11 causes. So I approached them and said, is it possible that that athlete would be open to doing a short 30-second bit for us? If celebrities have supported your events in the past and maybe they've been a guest at your event, they're approachable. Make it easy. Don't ask for that much. Tell them you can do it. You can help them record it. They can record it on their phone. You can send them instructions. You can send them the script. You can make it simple. And it's really hard for them to say no. If you have a decent person asking them, you should be able to find somebody. I think that answers most of the questions. Is there any, if there's nothing else, I'm just going to say thank you very much. So if you need me, please feel free to email me at darren@poweredbyprofessionals.com. And, we're open to helping answer any questions we can. The Nonprofit Resource Hub is amazing. And I'm going to turn it back over to Allison. And I encourage all the nonprofits, if you're not currently a member, there's no cost. Please join. There are resources like our company available. Allison, the floor is yours. Thank you, everybody.
Darren, thank you so much. That was a really unbelievable amount of information in such a short amount of time. That's going to be incredibly helpful to our nonprofits as we move forward into this year-end planning season. Please, if you do have any questions for Darren, reach out. If you can't reach Darren, reach out to us and we'll be happy to connect you with him. I do want to thank all of you for attending our webinar today. Please know that you'll be getting a survey. If you fill out the survey, please know that your feedback is so valuable to us. This is how we help shape webinars and workshops that will support your needs. I also want to ask everybody to please note our upcoming events. We have a really huge fall lineup going. On September 29th, we have Navigating the Workplace, Part 1. Part 2 is on October 6th. We have October 28th. We have our nonprofit meet and greet. If you are not a nonprofit partner of the Nonprofit Resource Hub, we encourage you to please sign up. There is no cost, and this will enable you to attend the meet and greet. And on the 9th of November, we have Navigating Conflict of Interest Transactions. We do have several other workshops rolling out towards the end of the year as well, and we will keep you posted once our dates are confirmed. Once again, Darren, thank you so much. Really great information. And I do encourage you, if you feel like you're lost, overwhelmed in this whole virtual event world and space, to please get in touch with Darren. He'll be a tremendous help and support to you. And I hope you all have a great week ahead. Thank you.